Hi everyone, this is Stepan and welcome to Hanging Pawns. I'm gonna go over a highly instructive game in the Giuoco Piano which was played between Harikrishna and Bacro in the Bill tournament in Switzerland in 2017. Pentala Harikrishna opened with 1 e4 and Bacro responded with e5. We have knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, c3, knight f6, d3, a6, castles and d6. This position is very common and the Italian is very well analyzed and it's highly theoretical, and all the moves that were played are highly theoretical as well here. Both sides stand well in a boring, almost symmetrical position. Harikrishna plays a4 here. It's also a theoretical move, but at this point white and black could choose to go many different paths, many different directions in the game. He plays a4, getting space on the queen side. And this is a very thematic move in the Giuoco Piano, and often the side that manages to lash out first on this side of the board gains the initiative. Another move he could have considered was d4, breaking in the center, but both are fine. Bacro retreats his bishop back to safety in anticipation of b4 and a5 voluntarily, and plays bishop to a7. Here Harikrishna continues developing his pieces with rook e1, Bacro castles, we have h3, he plays h3, reducing the scope of white's knight on f6 and giving the c8 bishop fewer squares to develop to. Now for example he couldn't go to g4. We have knight e7, knight bd2, knight g6, knight f1. Harikrishna decides that he likes Bacro's plan and starts moving the knight to g3 symmetrically, and c6. Here Bacro plays a thematic move for both sides in the Italian and also in the Spanish game, the Royal Pez. It prepares d5, gaining space in the center and perhaps even locking out the white bishop on c4 out of the powerful a2 g8 diagonal and the sensitive f7 square, which is often a grave weakness in the Italian and is the biggest target in Italian positions. And the bishop voluntarily goes to b3 immediately. Harikrishna responds with this idea, which is very often in the Italian and in the Spanish, which is to transfer the bishop from c4 or a4 in the Royal Pez to diagonal b1 h7, where it can't be harassed really, even if the bishop is not attacked yet. Bacro opens the position with d5. We have knight g3. Now after knight g3, both sides seem to have accomplished their plans. They both got their knights nicely placed on the f and g files. White has put in action his trust on the queen side, and black is properly responding by breaking in the center, which is the common rule. If your opponent is playing on the side, you should play in the center and vice versa. This type of middle game is common for the Giuoco Piano, and materially and positionally it's equal and fairly balanced. Bacro plays bishop e6 and the position starts to slowly open up, and Harikrishna responds with d takes d5, opening up the center and giving black 3 ways to take back. Here Bacro took with the knight, which is the best response, and had he taken with the he took with the knight, which was the best move, and if he had taken with the pawn, with for example c takes d, then the position would have been much more riskier, and white would have been able to win the e5 pawn with knight takes c5, knight takes c5, rook takes c5, and queen to b6. And this move queen to b6 is important for this position tactically, because in this position, when the pawn is taking on d5, the queen is eyeing the f2 square and the b3 bishop, but the diagonal between the two bishops on e6 and b3 is closed now, so the bishop isn't hanging. And in the positions with bishop takes d5, if he had taken the pawn with the bishop, if white have chosen to play knight takes e5 and knight takes e5, rook takes e5, the queen b6 would have been a double attack on the bishop and on the f2 pawn. However, bishop takes d5 wasn't a good move, because white doesn't have to take the e5 pawn. He can simply play bishop takes d5 first, interpose this move, and after queen d5 white is better. White is better and black doesn't really have anything to play for. And thus he played knight to d5. the absolute best move. And white responds with d4. We have e takes d4, knight takes d4, and queen c7. After queen c7, Harikrishna plays bishop takes d5, and there is an interesting tactic here. If he had tried to play knight takes c6 instead, so after queen c7, not bishop d5, but knight t6, trying to win a pawn, he would have failed miserably because of a crazy tactic. Bishop takes f2, king takes f2, f takes c6 with check, king has to retreat to g1, and queen g3. I mean, it's definitely not an easy tactic to spot, but he must have seen it. Otherwise, grabbing a pawn with a tempo on the queen seems too tempting to not be played. So he plays bishop takes d5. We have bishop takes d5, knight d takes f5, and rook a to d8, threatening some discovery tactics on the queen. The queen goes to g4, and the position is still equal, even though black won the bishop pair, which seems very intimidating on the diagonals looking towards the white king and f2 and g2. And I guess, practically speaking, every player would rather be black here, because the knights don't seem as dangerous. Okay, the e7 square is a bit unsafe, but after, for example, rook f2 e1, the knight wouldn't be threatening to go to e7 anyway. We have the move bishop to e6, bishop to e3, and bishop to b8, doubling and creating a battery on the diagonal towards the white king, and now it really does look a bit scary. The position is, the engine would still say that it's equal, but I would be scared if I was Harikrishna here. After Bacro plays bishop to b8, there were several good moves Harikrishna could have considered that would have kept equality in the game. Either rook to e1 to be activated, or even to d1, and bishop and c4, just gaining more space. The queen is defending the c4 square, and then preparing b3 and gaining space. But he played bishop c5. I mean, it's a tactical blunder that really isn't easy to spot, and the position is lost now. Bacro takes the knight on f5, and it really can't be taken, which Harikrishna took it. But of course, first, if you take the knight with the queen, there is rook d5, just winning the bishop, because the queen has to move. And after bishop f5, knight f5, he just got destroyed. We have queen h2, king f1, rook to d2, f4, h5, and queen f3, because if queen takes h5, there is just mate in one. So after queen f3, we have queen h1 check, bishop to g1, bishop to a7, rook to e3, bishop takes e3, and this is, I don't even know the evaluation of the position. It must be -10 or something. It's horrible. Knight takes e3, rook e8, knight c4, rook c2, and white just resigned. I mean, the position in which he blundered with bishop c5 doesn't seem that horrible for him. I mean, I'm not a good player, so I can't really see the tactics immediately. But after you think about it for a while, yeah, it's just lost. Bishop f5. The best move was actually retreating to queen to b4 or to e2. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this short tactical brilliancy by Bacro. I mean, honestly, it was given to him by Harikrishna, but he still exploited it wonderfully. Another instructional Italian game, and I hope you got something from it. Thanks very much. See you later. Bye bye.